I believe we had a very productive meeting. There were many, many points that we agreed on, most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So there's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call up the various people that I think are appropriate, and I'll, of course, call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. It's ultimately up to them. They're going to have to agree with what Marco and Steve and some of the great people from the Trump administration who've come here, Scott and John Ratcliffe, thank you very much. But we have some of our really great leaders. They've been doing a phenomenal job. We also have some tremendous Russian business representatives here, and I think, you know, everybody wants to deal with us. We've become the hottest country anywhere in the world in a very short period of time, and we look forward to that. We look forward to dealing. We're going to try and get this over with. We really made some great progress today. I've always had a fantastic relationship with President Putin, with Vladimir.
What's going on, Patriots? Welcome back to Right View Nation, the channel where we tell the truth the mainstream media won't dare touch. If you're sick of lies, manipulation, and weak leadership destroying this country, then you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, drop a comment, and share it with every freedom-loving American you know. Let's keep this movement growing.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, our negotiations have been held in a constructive atmosphere of mutual respect. We have very thorough negotiations that were quite useful. I would like to thank once again my American counterpart for the proposal to travel out here to Alaska. It only makes sense that we've met here, because our countries, though separated by the oceans, are close neighbors. So when we've met, when I came out of the plane and I've said, "Good afternoon, dear neighbor. Very good to see you. In good health and to see you alive." I think that is very neighborly. And I think that's some kind words that we can say to each other. We're separated by the Strait of Bering, though there are 2 islands only between the Russian island and the U.S. island. They're only 4 kilometers apart. We're close neighbors, and it's a fact. It's also important that Alaska has to do with our common heritage, common history between Russia and the U.S., and many positive events have to do with that territory. Still, there is tremendous cultural heritage back from the Russian America. For example, Orthodox churches and a lot of more than 700 geographical names of Russian origin. During the Second World War, it was here in Alaska that was the origin of the legendary air bridge for the supply of military aircraft and other equipment under the Lend-Lease program. It was a dangerous and treacherous route over the vast emptiness of ice. However, the pilots of both countries did everything to bring closer the victory. They risked their lives and they gave it all for the common victory. I was just in the city of Magadan in Russia, and there is a memorial there dedicated to the Russian and the U.S. pilots. And there are 2 flags, the U.S. flag and the Russian flag. And I know that here as well there is such a memorial. There is a military burial place several kilometers away from here. The Soviet pilots that buried there who died during that dangerous mission. We're thankful to the citizens and the government of the U.S. for carefully taking care of their memory. I think that's very worthy and noble. We'll always remember other historical examples when our countries defeated common enemies together in the spirit of battle camaraderie and allyship that supported each other and facilitated each other. I'm sure that this heritage will help us rebuild and foster a mutually beneficial and equal equal ties at this new stage, even during the hardest conditions. It is known that there have been no summits between Russia and the US for 4 years, and that's a long time. This time was very hard for bilateral relations, and let's be frank, they've fallen to the lowest point since the Cold War. I think that's not benefiting our countries and the world as a whole. It is apparent that sooner or later, we have to amend the situation to move on from the confrontation to dialogue. And in this case, a personal meeting between the heads of state has been long overdue. Naturally, under the condition of serious and painstaking work, and this work has been done in general. Me and President Trump have very good direct contact. We've spoken multiple times. We spoke frankly on the phone. And special envoy of the President, Mr. Woodruff, traveled out to Russia several times. Our advisors and heads of foreign ministries kept in touch all the time. And you know fully well that one of the central issues was the situation around Ukraine. We see the strive of the administration and President Trump personally to help facilitate the resolution of the Ukrainian conflict. And his strive to get to the crux of the matter, to understand its history, is precious. As I've said, the situation in Ukraine has to do with fundamental threats to our security. Moreover, we've always considered the Ukrainian nation, and I've said it multiple times, a brotherly nation, however strange it may sound in these conditions. We have the same roots, and everything that's happening is a tragedy for us, a terrible wound. Therefore, the country is sincerely interested in putting an end to it. At the same time, we're convinced that in order to make the settlement lasting and long-term, we need to eliminate all the primary roots, the primary causes of that conflict, and we've said it multiple times, to consider all legitimate concerns of Russia and to reinstate a just balance of security in Europe and in the world on the whole. And I agree with President Trump, as he has said today, that naturally the security of Ukraine should be ensured as well. Naturally, we are prepared to work on that. I would like to hope that the agreement that we've reached together will help us bring closer that goal and will pave the path towards peace in Ukraine. We expect that Kiev and European capitals will perceive that constructively and that they won't throw a wrench in the works. They will not make any attempts to use some backroom dealings to conduct provocations to torpedo the nascent progress. Incidentally, when the new administration came to power, bilateral trade started to grow. It's still very symbolic. Still, we have a growth of 20%. As I've said, we have a lot of dimensions for joint work. It is clear that the US and Russian investment and business cooperation has tremendous potential. Russia and the US can offer each other so much in trade, digital, high-tech, and in space exploration. We see that Arctic cooperation is also very possible. And our international context, for example, between the Far East of Russia and the West Coast of the US. Overall, it's very important for our countries to turn the page, to go back to cooperation. It is symbolic that not far away from here, the border between Russia and the US, there is a so-called international date line. I think you can step over, literally, from yesterday into tomorrow. And I hope that we'll succeed in that. In political sphere. I would like to thank President Trump for our joint work, for the well-wishing and trustworthy tone of our conversation. It's important that both sides are result-oriented, and we see that the President of the U.S. has a very clear idea of what he would like to achieve. He sincerely cares about the prosperity of his nation. Still, he understands that Russia has its own national interests. I expect that today's agreements will be the starting point, not only for the solution of the Ukrainian issue, but also will help us bring back business-like and pragmatic relations between Russia and the U.S. And in the end, I would like to add one more thing. I'd like to remind you that in 2022, during the last contact with the previous administration, I tried to convince my previous American colleague that the situation should not be
после наступления, которые могут наступить
brought to the
тяжелые
point
последствия в виде
of no
боевых
return
действий.
when it would come
И
to
прямо сказал
hostilities.
тогда,
And I
что
said
это
it quite
большая
directly back
ошибка.
then that it's a big
И
mistake.
вот сегодня мы слышим, когда президент Трамп
Today,
говорит,
when
что если бы
President
я
Trump
был
saying that
президентом, то войны
if he
бы
was
не
the
было.
president back then, there will be
Я
no
думаю,
war.
что так бы
And I'm
на самом деле
quite
и
sure that it would
случилось.
indeed be
Я
so.
подтверждаю
I
это,
can confirm that.
потому что в целом у
I
нас
think that
с
overall,
президентом Трампом
me and President
наладился
Trump
очень хороший
have built a very
деловой и
good
доверительный
business-like and
контакт.
trustworthy
И
contact.
у меня есть все основания
And I have
полагать, что
every
двигаясь
reason
по
to
этому
believe that
пути, мы
moving
можем
down this path,
дойти и до,
we can come,
чем быстрее, тем лучше,
and the sooner the
до
better,
завершения
to
конфликта
the
на
end of the
Украине.
conflict
Благодарю
in
вас
Ukraine.
за
Thank you.
внимание.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. That was very profound. And I will say that I believe we had a very productive meeting. There were many, many points that we agreed on, most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So there's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call up the various people that I think are appropriate, and I'll, of course, call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. It's ultimately up to them. They're going to have to agree with what Marco and Steve and some of the great people from the Trump administration who've come here, Scott and John Radcliffe, thank you very much. But we have some of our really great leaders. They've been doing a phenomenal job. We also have some tremendous Russian business representatives here, and I think, you know, everybody wants to deal with us. We've become the hottest country anywhere in the world in a very short period of time, and we look forward to that. We look forward to dealing. We're going to try and get this over with. We really made some great progress today. I've always had a fantastic relationship with President Putin, with Vladimir. We had many tough meetings, good meetings. We were interfered with by the Russia Hoax. That made it a little bit tougher to deal with, but he understood it. I think he's probably seen things like that during the course of his career. He's seen it all, but we had to put up with the Russia hoax. He knew it was a hoax, and I knew it was a hoax, but what was done was very criminal. But it made it harder for us to deal as a country in terms of the business and all of the things that we'd like to have dealt with. But we'll have a good chance when this is over. So just to put it very quickly, I'm going to start making a few phone calls and tell them what happened. But we had an extremely productive meeting, and many points were agreed to. There are just a very few that are left. Some are not that significant. One is probably the most significant, but we have a very good chance of getting there. We didn't get there, but we have a very good chance of getting there. I would like to thank President Putin and his entire team, whose faces, who I know in many cases, otherwise, other than that, whose faces I get to see all the time in the newspapers. You're almost as famous as the boss, but especially this one right over here. But we had some good meetings over the years, right? Good, productive meetings over the years, and we hope to have that in the future. But let's do the most productive one right now. We're going to stop really 5, 6, 7,000, thousands of people a week from being killed, and President Putin wants to see that as much as I do. So, again, Mr. President, I'd like to thank you very much, and we'll speak to you very soon and probably see you again very soon. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening. Thank you very much, Vladimir. And thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Folks, let me break this down as straight as it gets. What we just heard was more than a political meeting. It was a glimpse of what real leadership looks like when America has a president who actually respects our people, our history, and our future. President Trump sat down with Putin and laid it out plain. Peace through strength, honest dialogue, and putting America first while still recognizing that other nations have their own national interests. Imagine that, two leaders talking like adults instead of playing the childish blame game, we've been force-fed by the Biden crowd and their media lapdogs. Let's remember something here. Russia and America fought side by side in World War II against a common enemy. We had cooperation then. Fast forward decades later, what do we have now under weak globalist leadership? Division, endless wars, and a Washington swamp addicted to chaos because war lines their pockets. Trump, on the other hand, made it clear, if he were president, there would be no war in Ukraine. And you know what? I believe him 100%. Because under Trump, the world respected us. Our enemies didn't test us. North Korea went silent. ISIS was crushed. NATO nations actually started paying their fair share for defense. And Putin, he didn't dare expand because he knew Trump wasn't a pushover. He knew Trump wasn't going to get caught up in these fake Russia hoaxes the Democrats cooked up to discredit him. Let me say this loud and clear. That Russia collusion circus was one of the greatest frauds ever pulled on the American people. They wasted years trying to destroy Trump with lies, and in the process, they destroyed America's ability to negotiate from a position of trust. Putin knew it. Trump knew it. And we knew it. It was criminal, plain and simple. Now, listening to Trump here, what stands out is his laser focus on results. He doesn't care about empty photo ops, doesn't care about fake smiles for the cameras. He cares about stopping the bloodshed, rebuilding real partnerships where it benefits America, and keeping our people safe. That's what leadership is. That's what we had, and that's what we're missing today. And let's not ignore the economic side of this. Trump pointed out the rising trade potential. 20% increase in bilateral business even through the storm. Energy, space, technology, areas where America should be dominating, not falling behind. But right now, under this clown show administration, we're dependent on foreign oil again. We're flooding billions into Ukraine with no accountability. And we're ignoring our own farmers, our own workers, and our own borders. This is why patriots like us must stand up and say enough. We need strong leadership that puts Americans first, that understands peace comes from power, and that recognizes, when America is strong, the world is safer. Period. So here's the bottom line. Trump was right. If he were in office, this war would never have happened. The Democrats and their globalist allies will never admit it, but we all see the truth. We need Trump back. We need America First leadership back. And we need it now. Patriots, if you agree, hit that like button, share this video everywhere, and drop a comment below. Let me know what you think. Do you believe Trump could have prevented the war in Ukraine? I know where I stand, and I want to hear from you. And don't forget, subscribe to Right View Nation so you never miss the truth the mainstream won't cover. Together, we'll keep fighting to defend faith, family, and freedom. God bless you all. God bless President Trump, and God bless the United States of America.